So now they're questioning Native American birthright citizenship while also trying to strip away the 14th Amendment in order to eliminate the illegal migrants, which we all know that will extend to also Native Americans and then most likely African Americans as well. Since Native Americans are loyal to their tribe and they have their own treaties and everything, they would need to denounce their allegiance to their tribe, which is honestly a horrible thing. And this is not to be mean when I say this, and this is more just for history. Native Americans should have stopped white people when they started putting their names on the Native American list. Now, while many people act like they don't know, there were many dark-skinned Native Americans. There were many Native Americans that were reclassified as Negro. And as they stripped away their rights to be Native American, they then forced their names onto the Native American census list. White people. That's why you see so many super white Native Americans with 1% Native. And many of them don't even have Native American blood. They're just lying about it because their family's been on the list the whole time and they have been receiving benefits. And this is why you have to draw a line. And when you see one group of people getting treated bad, you need to stop it at the door, because once they're done with them, they are coming for you.
Birthright citizenship was for the descendants of slaves, not immigrant babies. How hard is this to comprehend?
Apparently there's some confusion about birthright citizenship. So much confusion that President Trump has had to chime in.
We had a very unfortunate decision in the Supreme Court concerning birthright. It was close, but a very, very unfortunate decision. So we're making adjustments because it's very unfair. This was done for a different reason. This was done right after the Civil War. This was for the babies of slaves.
I don't see a lot of creators talking about this, but the Supreme Court is scheduled to hear oral arguments regarding President Trump's challenge to birthright citizenship on April 1st, 2026. The case that President Trump is challenging focuses on whether an executive order can end automatic citizenship for children born in the U.S. to undocumented or temporary status. That could be a big win for Black Americans.
And what's happening now, people are building businesses around it. From wealthy people are building businesses around birthright citizenship. That's not the way it's supposed to work. It's a disgrace. They're buying their way in, and we're not going to let it happen. So, Steve, if you will, please.
Yes, so today the President signed these two executive orders here relating to birthright citizenship and birth tourism.
Wait, why didn't nobody tell me that birthright citizenship was meant for the babies of slaves? On the basis of that logic, we got to follow what Trump says, y'all. A lot of things have changed. If you don't have a musket, I can't tell me about the Second Amendment. Baby, if you're not pouring in, and I mean pouring it in, shoving that stick down and ready to shoot, so no more blickies, the Glocks, you're going to have to put them down. Yeah, sorry about that, folks, but Trump daddy said it's no more. Birthright was meant for slaves, for babies of slaves. So I'm sorry. We really gotta start taking this stuff to heart now, because he knows so much about how this country was founded and everything. And honestly, at this point, we need to re-roll out the entire Constitution. Let's light this candle. Let's talk about the amendment number 8. We're supposed to be protected from cruel and unusual punishment, but every time Orange Guy gets on the screen, I'm feeling very cruel and punished.
Birthright citizenship was for the descendants of slaves, not immigrant babies. How hard is this to comprehend? Black Americans, you have allowed this to go on so long to the point these people are fighting against you politically. You reap what you sow.
Second Black U.S. Supreme Court justice, and he takes this stance. Let's read it together. Blacks were entitled to citizenship because they were Americans. I bet the Founding Fathers didn't agree with that. Let's continue. They had no other homeland, owed no allegiance to any foreign power, and were subject to no other authority. Let's dissect that for a second. If the 14th Amendment was only intended for former slaves, descendants of another foreign power, therefore they did have a place from which they came, although whether they wanted to go back is up for debate. Nonetheless, your words contradict your argument. He goes on to say the same cannot be said for the children of foreign temporary visitors. So the distinction between slaves and immigrants, refugees, is that one was brought by force and the other is a willing visitor. Nigga, you got a doctorate in jurisprudence. You don't even believe this bullshit. He goes on to say that his colleagues that affirm the decision repurposed the 14th Amendment for their own goodwill. I would say the same was the case when the 14th was added. What are your thoughts?
If you don't like Trump, get the fuck out of America. Trump said birthright citizenship is only for fucking black people. Native Americans always being disrespectful to black people, talking about we ain't indigenous to America, but I'm finna bust your fucking bubble. And in 1924, Indian citizenship was signed into law, granting U.S. citizenship to all natives born in America, because you're not fucking indigenous. And the Trail of Tears happened in 1830 through 1850. That's 20 fucking years, meaning that y'all went through 20 years of bullshit with the Europeans when they came to fucking America. And the Underground Railroad, far as black people, happened from the 1700s to the end of the fucking Civil War, ending in 1865. So we went through centuries of problems with European people burning down our ancestors' houses, businesses, farms, stealing our goats, cows, sheep, every goddamn thing that we worked hard for. Manslaughter, being hung. We went through so many motherfucking things. But your people only went through 20 years and not one was hung. You just went through 20 years trying to fight for some shit that wasn't yours. You went through 20 years walking down Trail of Tears, crying and bitching because y'all wanted our land. Y'all wanted our history. And y'all signed motherfucking government contracts to live on Indian reservations to have our motherfucking history. Stop saying all black people come from fucking Africa, because the blacks that's in America is not fucking African. If you look on the job application, it say black or African American. Us in America is black. Africans that come over from Africa to America is considered African Americans. You dumb fuck. Just like on the job application, you can see it say Native American or Alaska Native. The so-called Native Americans are truly Alaska Natives. That's why they live with teepees, Eskimos and shit. Just look it the fuck up. Real Indians had houses. Real Indians had shit that the white man wanted. And that's why black people, houses, businesses, and shit was burned down. That's why we was enslaved, because we were good at building. We was good at farming. We was good at crop. We was good at all that shit. And they needed us to do the shit. And on top of it, look at the skin. We can stand the sun. The sun love us. God love us. So guess what? We're going to use God-chosen people that can stand the sun, that don't get burned up, to get out here and work this motherfucking field.
Hello, brothers and sisters. Thank you so much for tuning in, and welcome back to today's conversation. And we are drawing our conversation today from Donald Trump after confirming that the birthright was actually created for the Black Americans, for the descendants of slavery, and not immigrants. And these have really sparked debate, because it have confirmed what black people have been saying, that despite that black people would appreciate, they have hospitality of hosting many immigrants, there are rights and privileges that are reserved for the Native Americans. And one of the things is what Mr. DJT actually confirmed, that these birthrights that have been misused by so many migrants who actually come with a working passport, and then they end up probably giving birth, and their kids becomes citizens. And also all these immigrants who are probably are rich and they come and buy the citizenship. That whichever the case, that is still not paramount as the birthright. And the birthright is only the people who only deserve that are Black Americans. And this literally, Black people are speaking about it, but not to make a great deal about it, but just to differentiate that they are people who deserve some of the privileges like birthright. They are, and this is because they were there. This is because they are the real citizens of America. This is because they are foundational Americans. This is because, and this did not just come like that. It is because of the things that they have done to bring America where it is. When you look at history, America is said to be built from the back of slavery, and this simply means it is the slaves. It is the Black people who are the slaves who actually built America, and up to now they are still building. And that is just to differentiate and to make things clear, because there are some of the immigrants that have been coming out complaining or expecting probably that Black people can be deported just like the way they are deported. There are some immigrants who are still feeling that this issue of birthright, the Black Americans and the immigrants should be treated the same, probably because most of the immigrants are brown or black. But by Trump confirming and saying that the intention of creating this birthright was because of Black people after the end of slavery, actually confirms that even the system, whether they like or not, they like or not, there are some of the privileges that are reserved for the Black Americans because they are Americans, because they are the Native Americans. So, folks, let me know what you think about this episode. And a lot of Black people have spoken about it, and they have made things super clear. To be honest, I think that Black Americans have really worked. They have that historical of bringing America where it is right now, and they deserve some of the rights and privileges. This does not mean that Black people, in a way, really want any injustice with any immigrants, but it is just to confirm what they have been saying. It is just to confirm, because many a times they have been called Africans, many a times they are confused with immigrants, but with this, I think has really confirmed that Black Americans are the really foundational Black Americans. So, folks, let me know what you think about this. You may differ with some of the opinion, but let me know what you think about this. And without saying much, let's dive in fast and watch the rest of the video.
Birthright citizenship and the 14th Amendment has always been about foundational Black Americans. Case closed, no debate. But they try to find loopholes in it the same way they try to find loopholes in the civil rights era, the same way they try to find loopholes in our rallies, our protests, and our marches, the same way they're trying to find loopholes right now with reparations. Everything that immigrants do has to be funneled through what Black Americans have created. Everything from the United States of America to a reparations paycheck. Birthright citizenship is for foundational Black Americans. Immigrants want to get in on it. Civil rights were for foundational Black Americans. Immigrants want to get in on it. Reparations is for foundational Black Americans. Immigrants want to get in on it. There's this whole system that has been created where you take things that Black Americans have created and then you try to hand it off to all these other groups. And when foundational Black Americans say hail to the gnaw and we snatch it back because we delineate, everybody cries foul. Well, your ass gonna be shedding some tether tears because we don't give a damn. This is our house. This is our time, and what we say goes. And if we shut you down in the process, you just gonna be shut down and you gotta live with it. If you name everything that Black Americans have done, if you name everything Black Americans have created, it all goes back to the excellence of our country, but don't nobody ever want to put the spotlight on that. That's fine, because we're going to put the spotlight on it, and everybody knows our spotlight shines brightest amongst everybody's. And all we doing, family, is that we putting a twist on it, each brother and sister, king, queen, goddess, and God, and we doing it our way. They cannot see us, not at all. They can try, but they're going to fail. And everybody always fails when they come up against us.
Apparently, there's some confusion about birthright citizenship. So much confusion that President Trump has had to chime in. And so I just want to be honest. Birthright citizenship exists because of me. African Americans, descendants of former slaves. That's what it was for. It guaranteed African Americans citizenship in a country that had never acknowledged them as citizens or even more than 3/5 of a person. That's what it was for. It was not designed for an immigrant to hop over the fence and have a baby and, hey, that baby gets American citizenship. Wrong. It wasn't designed for rich immigrants to come over here and buy their citizenship by having babies.
The 14th Amendment was specifically written to protect the citizenship of formerly enslaved Black people. As a legal expert, he is surely aware of the unambiguous language contained in the 14th Amendment. Yes, the affirming of the citizenship for formerly enslaved Black people was the impetus for the establishment of the 14th Amendment, but it actually went much farther than that. The Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment reads as follows: all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. That language is pretty unambiguous, but people who oppose the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment love nothing more than creating hair-splitting, tedious legal arguments around what the framers meant by subject to the jurisdiction.
As a Black American, if you feel like these immigration situations don't affect you, that's completely fine. However, after slavery, after we were freed, we were fighting for humanity, yes, but overall, we were fighting for citizenship, and Black Americans have been second-class citizens in this country since we were freed. So the reason why immigration things affects us as Black Americans is because when they're talking about birthright citizenship and we're talking about citizenship in general, we are the blueprint in this country for citizenship outside of white people, outside of white men. So no matter what, when we're talking about citizenship in this country, we are the centers of that because all of the citizenship laws and things that have been created have been heavily influenced by the Black American identity. So as a Black American, with them saying, hey, birthright citizenship is up for grabs right now, that affects us because, number one, think about the fact that a lot of people in the older generation were lucky to even have a birth certificate, and some of them don't have the documents to prove that they are citizens. So if they are taking away birthright citizenship when you're having a baby, you have to prove your citizenship in order for your child to receive citizenship, even if you are a born and bred, true, full-blooded American. So Black Americans, sure, immigration, when you hear immigration, we didn't immigrate here, but when you hear citizenship, pay attention, that's us.
In regards to this birthright citizenship stuff, I want to be clear. I never really talked about this and never really got down into the subject of this because I didn't understand what was occurring and why it was occurring. At the end of the day, the constitutional clause that talks about birthright citizenship 100% was meant to include or was 100% meant to refer to the children of prisoners of war. Okay? It does not mean, and it did not mean at that time, that if somebody from Libya comes to America, that when they have a child, that they have birthright citizenship. It never did mean that, because at that time, when that law was put into place, there were only indigenous Americans and Caucasians, or Europeans rather. There wasn't a whole bunch of other people here. So it at the time, it addressed the conversation of the time, of the moment, right? So the issue that I have with immigrants coming in and trying to use that as like a catch-all type of umbrella clause for them is that they then are now pushing that means that they have the same rights as those who are indigenous to this land, one, which is Black Americans, who I'm specifically talking about, and those who actually created the system with which we currently live in, which are the people who conquered us at the end of the day. That's what happened, right? Right? So the issue comes in when they are, and see, this is what they're doing. They are trying to say that Black people are immigrants and we're immigrants, so we should be able to be treated and get the same rights as Black people. And it's just not the truth. We are not immigrants. We were already here. So the issue with this conversation is that it separates us from our birthright and our inheritance to the land, okay? And to, to benefit from the system, that was created from on our backs. And it really was. And so when the immigrants come here and they say, oh, this place was built on the backs of immigrants. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. So Black people, you got to pay attention to this, because actually at the end of the day, what they're trying to do is they are trying to say that Black people are similar to immigrants, that we are the same, and we're not. We were indigenous to the land. We could never be the same. And I think we need to get a little bit ahead of this at the end of the day. I think instead of us even trying to play on this level field, because we are indigenous to the land, we have more capability and more power than we even know. And we need to start setting the tone for that. We need to start setting our own ground rules, because at the end of the day, it's getting out of hand. People who are coming from other places think that they have the same rights that you have. No, you have courtesies. There's a difference, right? You have courtesies. We've given you a courtesy. We've extended you a courtesy, okay? And we've given you some additional privileges, but those are not rights that you have. If you're an immigrant, that's just it. You're an immigrant. That means that we have given you courtesy. We have given you the courtesy to allow you to do certain things. That doesn't mean that you come over here and you start making the rules.
A whole lot of people thought that birthright citizenship was going to fail, okay? However, it did not fail. Okay, so if you are born in the United States of America, you are a birthright citizen. That is the ruling of the Supreme Court. And that is what so many Black American forefathers fought for way back in the day. Okay, because back in the day, they were trying to base it on race and race alone. However, it's not based on race alone. It's about the fact you're born here. Okay. And contrary to what many people believe, Black Americans and white American abolitionists and politicians who were on the right side of history decided that early on. They were like, no, we're going to fight for birthright citizenship instead of it being based on race. Because if, in fact, they were to base it on race, they would have only let white folk be citizens, to be quite honest. They would have based it all on race. But now that I mentioned birthright citizenship and how the Supreme Court just upheld birthright citizenship and how this has been a long ongoing fight to get it way back in the day for Black Americans and white Americans who stood on the side of birthright citizenship, I want to talk about that because I ran into a comment. People didn't understand how Black Americans actually co-founded the United States of America, and this was one of the challenges that Black Americans actually took part in. There is absolutely nothing. Let me say this: there's absolutely nothing that took place in the United States of America good that Black Americans did not participate in. I'm gonna say this: the movie Roots has y'all screwed up. Okay. The movie Roots has y'all screwed up. The Black Americans were doing more than just what you saw on Roots. Okay. If you care to even read the book I wrote on it, okay, Black Americans did everything in the United States of America the same way as white Americans did. Okay, there's no white people can do this, black people couldn't do this. No. As far as skill set, as far as surveying, as far as a lot architects, engineers, Black Americans did the same exact thing as white Americans, and Black America actually did it more because we were enslaved. Okay, we did it more. So the founding of the United States of America was not just white folk. I just want to get that out. I just want to get that out there. It was not just white folk. It was Black Americans. There's nothing, when I tell you, I want y'all to understand this. Enslaved does not mean just working in the fields. We did everything. Everything. We did more, actually. We did everything. That's exactly why Black America can hold this nation together, because we know what to do. We know what to do. Okay? Black America did just as much and more for the founding of this nation in white America. So even when it comes down to birthright citizenship, it was Black Americans who freaking created that bad boy. Straight up. And I'm going to prove it to you right now, okay? If it were not for Black Americans, there would be no birthright citizenship. If it were not for Black Americans, there would be no birthright citizenship. That's facts. That's facts. All of what is going on in the United States of America is because Black Americans fought for it and made this country, our country, live up to what it's supposed to be. When you want to talk about the rulers of the good in America, you're talking about Black America.
Very quickly, bringing up Black American descendants of slaves while trying to end birthright citizenship, saying that it was originally intended for Black American slaves and not immigrants, and the person who is saying this is someone who directly benefits from birthright citizenship, it is a very obvious attempt to triangulate immigrants and Black Americans against one another. This is another attempt to create division and cause chaos and discord to keep people fighting amongst another and distracted from what is actually the issue. Also, we are not the only country that has birthright citizenship. The vast majority of the countries in the Americas, including Canada and Mexico, have birthright citizenship, along with other countries in the Caribbean. A lot of these countries instituted birthright citizenship as they were getting their independence to entice European immigrants to come to their countries. This is the time, now more than ever, a lot of people need to develop their critical thinking skills, critical listening skills, and their discernment. If something you are reading or seeing is making you feel very strongly, it's eliciting a very strong emotional reactions from you, before you respond, before you repost, before you tag, before you share, do your research, look it up yourself.
Black Americans need to be heavily invested in this birthright citizenship conversation because we only have citizenship as a result of the 14th Amendment. And I know that there are segments of Black Americans that believe that we grew here like cornstalk. But if you're paying attention to the Supreme Court conversations that have been had today, they do not give a damn about indigeneity and have gone so far as to question Native folks. And if tribal indigenous folks can claim U.S. citizenship on their own land. I did a video last year, particularly talking about the Dred Scott decision of 1857. And if you're watching this on TikTok, you can look at my caption for that video. And I was talking about how the Dred Scott decision, which was a Supreme Court decision, tells you what you need to know about how they feel about us being here. Chief Justice Robert B. Taney said that Black people had no rights that a white man was bound to respect. That the Declaration of Independence naming that all men were created equal was not for us. and that ultimately servitude was our place as Black people in the United States of America, then you can absolutely recognize that no matter how many times they talk about illegals gaining citizenship, they don't want Black people to have it either. I find it odd that in this time, Black people will be trusting anything white men have to say, when the reason we have a whole ass Juneteenth is because people in Galveston, Texas weren't even told that they were emancipated. And also, it's not a matter of them stripping away our citizenship in order to ship us wherever around the world. It is their goal to have us in a continuum of servitude.